I just released an open source library that self-documents code bases. I had the idea in the morning, I wrote it, it was documented, it was pushed out, it was published to NPM, all within 4 or 5 hours. That same idea a year ago would have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Welcome to The Incremental Marketer, a content series where we meet with top marketing executives and leaders across industries to help you drive growth in your business. Welcome, everyone, to The Incremental Marketer. Joining us today is Jonathan Tushman, my good friend, multi-startup founder, has led VC-backed organizations for the past 20 years. Currently CPO and CTO of Hi Marley. Hi Marley is a company on a mission to make insurance simpler and more lovable. And Jonathan's a longtime Boston tech veteran, has led multiple startups, including the one we co-founded, Pipewave, which was acquired by Zephyr, Quala, and others. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks, Paul. It's super awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
For our listeners, Jonathan and I started a company, Pipewave, in 2010, and essentially in the room that you're sitting in today.
Yep, in my attic. Yep. I still have many of the t-shirts that we wore proudly during our Pipewave days, which are super formative to my career. Those were some of the best years of my professional career.
Mine as well. We grew the company. In 2 years, we had an exit to the great company Zephyr. And then, Jonathan, you led the Boston office and then grew the technology for marketing tech within Zephyr, which is now, largely a marketing tech play. Can you tell us a bit more about that experience?
Yeah, just a note on that, the transformative experience of Pipewave. Like, we did everything venture-backed VCs told us not to do. We started this thing bi-coastal, pick a non-traditional tech stack. We picked a crowded space. We ended up not raising any funds. And all those decisions that we did chose to be really great for us. So we were great not jumping into the herd mentality. And it was a really successful, really fun couple years. Also really neat how we did that back in the days where it wasn't super easy to be remote, but we found a way to make it really work.
It was formative for my life, career, and everything we've done since. It felt like we started in this crucible of exciting idea. I mean, You and I traded ideas at Five Guys, right? We were like writing down potential business plans and reiterating on them in the early days.
I actually think in my 25 plus year career, there's been two moments where it's been the most fun ever to write software. So right around at 2010, it was really the birth of cloud computing, and continuous integration made it really easy for a small team to be able to create some software and deploy it by themselves. So one of the things that Pipewave did, we were one of the first YouTube certified video and ad servers. Our competitors were teams that were 100 times the size of ours, but we were able to take advantage of this new modern way of writing software, which allowed us to move so quickly. And thinking about where we are now, I feel that energy so much right now with AI as in this new way of writing software. I see a lot of similarities between these 2 years.
I was sitting next to you at a conference. At the time, you said it's 3x improvements in your work effectiveness as a engineer and as a leader.
Yeah.
Is it still 3x? Where do you see it now?
My happy spot, guys, is I'm a hands-on keyboard technologist. So if somebody asks me what I do, I really am a developer. I'm the most happy in front of a terminal or an IDE writing code. That is really what fills my cup. And right now, as an engineer, I'm probably 5 to 6 times more productive than I was just 4 years ago. So for example, I just released an open source library that self-documents code bases. I wrote that library in 4 hours. I had the idea in the morning, I wrote it, it was documented, it was pushed out, it was published to NPM, and I wrote a blog post and pushed it up into LinkedIn and what have you, all within 4 or 5 hours. That same idea to live, a year ago would have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So, a 10x difference of what you're doing. It's high quality code. I can super get into nerd land here. People talk about greenfield technology versus brownfield technology. And there is true that starting from scratch, it's really easy now to have this lift. But I also think working with brownfield existing technology also has this lift. But it's amazing. It's a totally different way of writing software. And I love it. And I still think it's actually the golden age of being an engineer. I hear people out there say, hey, should my kids still go to school to learn engineering? And I'm like 1,000 times yes.
Yes. And by the way, Jonathan is father of 3 and an avid, overly complex board game enthusiast with his kids who are all amazing.
Thanks for that, dude. Yeah. Like video games, board games. I feel all the same things. I like solving problems, and I feel like they're all has similar DNA.
I love it. Tell us about Hi Marley. So you've since, give us the arc of your career first. I love talking about Pipewave, and then where did you go from there?
So again, always hands-on keyboard technologist is my foundational identity. I went to business school where I met you, Paul. In the last 25 years has all been stuff that falls into the venture-backed space. So after Pipewave, I started 2 other companies. I loved the ideation and then the creation and building teams. I joined Hi Marley 3 years ago. They acquired my last company. We're a scale-up, which is a fun phase for me to be, where we have existing product market fit. The product we have now is building the insurance communication fabric for P&C insurance, whether it's a Progressive or a Liberty Mutual or what have you, a P&C insurance company, and how they communicate with a policyholder and how would they resolve claims. It's not just a quick phone call. It's actually a relatively long process that involves many ecosystem players. And we help make that a smoother process to happen either asynchronously over SMS or other ways just to make the process more efficient and lovable. And it's been a really fun space. And it's particularly fun as a nerd right now, trying to weave in this new way of doing things with AI as a team of engineers. And also, how do we add this into our features for the products that we're trying to create for our customers?
It's been great seeing you scale that team. And so tell us about your team and the company. Congrats on the growth. What is the makeup of the team now? And is it particularly focused on AI in the way that you develop?
Yeah, so I mean, the company we're north of 100 people. The way our team is orchestrated, there's a platform. We have some horizontal support teams, but our way our teams are organized are by problem. So we're not tech first. We don't try to say, hey, we have this great AI amazing thing here. How do we make an AI product? We're like, how do we make this awesome, first notice of loss product or claims product? Or there's all these things in the insurance space that we try to go find a customer with a pain point in need, and how do we solve that problem? This has been a big learning over me over my course of my career. As a technologist, I always see really great technology ideas, but the real thing is working with the people that really get the strategy and the business side to understand that first is how you make successful businesses. That's why our partnership works so well. I mean, I respected you so much of you seeing what the opportunity was in the space, and you knew the economic buyers and the pain that they had, and you saw the strategic thing, versus me just building something. So that partnership between industry strategists and understanding the market and a technologist has always been the way I approach, and it's been the most successful approaches. And where I've stumbled is when I let great technologists just think about a technology first approach, which is tricky. You see a lot of people thinking about now with AI, so it could do so much, but really starting with the problem first, the strategy first, and everything around that has been a big maturing of my approach to starting businesses.
It is something to be said about the complementary skill set that I think you and I had in that startup and continue to have. Jonathan's an advisor to Slingwave. He continues to help us think about scaling up, and we are always grateful for your insights. I mean, the seeing things from 2 different angles. You came at this industry marketing technology fresh. You did not have 100% technology background. And when we described we talked about what we were trying to build, you literally built an ad server in your attic, running patches on the Acela Express after we met with Google in New York to make sure the thing would run. And it was amazing. I mean, so tell us, you built it back then on what architecture?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Well, that's
how
a
did you
fun.
come up with the genesis of that?
I always like entering new problem spaces without having the baggage of what's been done before. Like if we did all the research of what X, Y, and Z did to do it, we would have said, "Oh my God, this is gonna be this huge lift. We need this huge team X, Y, and Z." It was kind of neat to jump off and try to build it ourselves. Remember very fondly the technology stack that we did for Pipewave. And if there are any nerds on this call, they'll remember this stuff too. But one of the foundational technologies was Ruby on Rails, which I still think is an amazing piece of technology. It was amazing back then and went through a little bit of a dip, but I think the new Rails right now is actually an awesome choice for many different reasons. We use Mongo, so a NoSQL database. I, I like Mongo a lot. I wouldn't use that again. That actually was a scaling point of issues we had back then. And then we use Heroku for deploying. That was one of these early full stack CI/CD platforms that made it really easy to push out changes and to scale your systems without having a huge DevOps team. So, and that was a necessity of the team that we had. So I wanted to build something that had low operation costs. I wanted to be able to do it and maintain it so it's scaled by itself. And that's the stack that I picked. We ended up selling it pretty quickly. If we ended up to the next phase of really scale, there have probably been some migration and cost points to move to a different solution. But it was a great solution at the time. I learned a ton and actually built similar patterns in the pack that I think I would have built it differently 5 years later, and I certainly would build it differently now. But it super worked. I still remember, Paul, like my monitoring system, we would run these large campaigns and I would have a laptop in my kitchen, and if things got too hot, it would just start beeping. If we started serving too much and I had to scale some stuff, it's a little bit of a duct tape and paper clips to make it work, but it certainly worked.
I remember this as well. There was a day I was in LA, like you said. We were two coasts. Jonathan covered Boston, I covered LA, and we would run these campaigns for major global brands. I would be outside pushing our young 1-year-old on the swing, and I could hear an alert going off in the background. It was the ad server, running hot. Like it's essentially we were really scaled up. So I'd have to get him off the swing, run inside your monitoring system. You had it all set up, but there was some edge cases we were always dealing with.
So I'll say one more thing here that I've actually taken a learning from Pipewave and put into every single team that I've built is that we own the company. We took no venture-backed funding. In ad tech, if you make a mistake, you need to make a make good, which means you need to refund your customer, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. There's nothing like, feeling that like, oh crap, we just made a mistake, and Paul and I need to write a check for $15,000 with our youngest family back then. So there's this thing about ownership and feeling ownership that makes you make the right pragmatic decisions in time. And it's one of the things I've always looked for when building teams is finding people to find ways for them to feel ownership of what they do. And when they do that and you hire smart folks, they make the right pragmatic decisions. So that was a big thing for us. But
absolutely.
That was real.
It was real entrepreneurship 101, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Those were painful lessons, and you and I powered through it. It's very, very much building that team. I totally agree. The ownership piece and, just having everyone in that kind of startup mentality and like-minded. Now, you've built this team at Hi Marley around AI. Tell us more about where you are now. So that point in time where you were 3x better with AI.
Yeah.
And where are you going this year? Where do you see the team exiting?
Yeah. So it's a nuanced question. Right now with AI, let's say I'm 3 or 5x more. I think exiting this year, we'll find engineers on certain teams have 20x efficacy. It's a really big deal.
Yeah.
And that's happening quickly and soon. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the makeups of teams are going to be with this new modality.
Is it a step function up to 20? Like every month we're getting better?
Yeah. So I guess here's the main modality that's happening now. Like right now, when I write code, I'm in front of a terminal and I use Windsurf. There's Windsurf, there's Cursor, there's a GitHub Copilot. And basically I'm talking to it and I ask it a question and then it does some work. And while it's doing some work, I tend to pet my dog, right? So my dogs are getting a lot more attention. I've challenged myself now not to really write code anymore, but work with the LLMs to write code for me. And right now it's still, so this is, reaching 5%, 5x efficacy right now doing that, but it's still very much single threaded where I am asking something, doing something, watching this happen here and petting my dog. So I feel like I'm a 5x individual engineer. The key is when you're going to be able to give units of work to n number of these and have them go off and do work by themselves and come back with X, Y, and Z. There are tools like Devin out there. There are other ones that are coming out here that are trying to do this. I don't find them to be effective yet, but they will be soon enough. They're going to be these new modalities of working where instead of you just talking to this, you say, hey, all right, guys, hey, team of AI, we got a week ahead of us and I want to attack this problem. AI number one, let's call you Jimmy. I want you to do X, Y, and Z. And Susan, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. And you orchestrate work more as a team, and they're going to go forth and they're going to communicate with each other. It sounds like, a fantasy book that you're reading, but it really, I see that coming. It is, I think it's just a matter of physics when that comes. I do think there's going to be this point where it levels off at 20x. It's just like how much can a human brain orchestrate your thoughts on a team? So I think it's going to be similar. And I'm curious how it's going to happen. My best, the teams that I work on now are like 2 to 5 people. When it gets to a certain size, it's hard to keep it all in my brain. But eventually you can think of going to the next level where you have AI, managing a team of teams and just taking that forward. But I do think there's going to be significant efficacy changes this year. I'm not afraid of this. I view it with super fun and excitement, just like I did back with Rails and Heroku back in the day.
You have run large organizations, large teams. You've run lean, agile startup teams. What do you think is the pros and cons of a 2 to 5 person team in this environment?
Yeah. I really like units of small teams. I think you want to find, once a team gets bigger than 6, people get lost in it. I really think a team of 3 is probably the best sized team, just in terms of number of communication points that you have. And you can see having many of those be super effective. I spend a lot of energy now. This is another big learning for me. I use the phrase hire hard, work easy. So I spend a lot of energy hiring the right people for our jobs. And I think a lot about functional accountability as well. As we organize a team, what functions these people have. And the combination of these two things have been probably my biggest maturing of technology leader. That's not a skill I had back in our Pipewave days, but now as I have a larger mandate, a larger team, I think equally about the technology vision, but I spend a lot of time thinking about, the who. A lot of times my question is this a what problem or a who problem? And in general, it's almost always a who problem. Like, let me find the right person to talk to who knows the answer, or let me find the right person to hire to put in that seat that can solve that answer, which has been helping me scale organizations. And again, out there for the people listening here, I'm a venture-backed guy. I'm not dealing with huge companies. I'd still like to be in this, 20-person to 400-person size organizations are the area that I've been in.
Yeah, and you've been a CPO, CTO, CEO. You've had all of those roles. How do you get to product market fit for organizations at this level? I think a lot of our audience is marketers, marketing leaders. They have probably small startup teams within their sometimes large organizations. And then, you launch a product and you think the world's going to love it. How do you know they love it?
There's a lot to that. So I think by finding the right combination of skills on you bring a company to market, a product to market. So I know I'm a great technologist. I can take ideas and figure out how to build it. I'm pretty good strategically, but I always like to combine with an industry strategist. So back in MarTech days, I was you, Paul. In insurance is my partner, Mike. And the combination of these two things together is super important. The other thing that I like to do when building new products is people talk of, I love the Amazon model of the PR FAQ, where you start off with a press release. What is this going to do? So I think that's a great way to start something. It's a great way to harden an idea. Like, is this going to resonate in the market? And the other thing I like to do when writing early stage code is like, you spend a whole bunch of time writing prototypes and getting your first demo. But at the same time, I like to have a website that I'm building at the same time to tell the value of what I'm building. So it had that be just as malleable as your demo of your code, demoing your marketing messaging, understanding who your initial target buyer is, what message resonates with them, and you want to have many reps with that part as much as you with the demo and the code. The crazy thing, like the balance has changed. It used to be writing software was so hard that you needed to get the business plan and the marketing and everything nailed out first. But it actually kind of flipped. It's actually easier to write code now than it is to get marketing and the strategy right. So I think it's cool to try to do them together. Like it's nuts how fast you can build software right now. But doing them together has been a neat new pattern that's been working well for us.
This is like a Jonathan Tushman quote. The way you tell the story about the software is as important as the software itself. Is that
100%? 100%.
How are you doing it? You actually, what platforms are you using to help you tell the story about the software?
Oh, right now, so like again, LLM driven stuff to write code and design is amazing. An ideal early team for me is to have a really great, passionate architect, backend engineer that knows how to code, and then also I love having a UX UI storyteller. Like this is the ideal battery of an early team where this person is also working on the front end code, but they're also equally passionate about the marketing message as well. And we're not using Figma or anything. We actually just write code to make marketing pages with it, and we just iterate on it. But like,
are you using Windsurf or Bolt or either of those for that?
Yeah, so I use Windsurf. The rest of my team is using Cursor. Pick one. They're both great. I love Bolt.new. I haven't heard use Lovable yet, but there's a bunch of tools out there. Bolt.new is awesome for early prototypes to get an idea. Is nutso. They now recently partner with Supabase, which is a cool database technology too. So literally, Paul, like you can spend a day describing what you want to build, have an authentication service layer, have a database, and deploy it to Netlify, and you have a real working prototype within a day. So it's gonna be this really interesting merging of skill sets between designers, product managers, UX folks, engineers. It's all gonna get kind of smushed together over time.
I think you introduced us to a couple of those tools, and we've been using it internally for prototyping. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
Are there any other kind of hacks that you're experiencing and realizing that what you just said, this world is changing so fast that in 6 months, this list might already be outdated? But what's top of mind for you right now?
In terms of tooling so I think everyone should play around with tools like Bolt.new, Lovable. I think people should lean on that, see what I can build as a prototype just for those tools. And then from engineering, of course, you need to be using the Windsurfs and the Cursors of the world to write your code. More people should be experts in source control. One of the things right now when you do work with these tools, LLMs tend to move your product forward, let's call it 30% of the time or 50% of the time. It's a coin flip. A large percent of the time they make it worse. You need to be able to roll back to that state. So working with source control is really important. I still haven't seen business people and non-nerds get good at that, but that's why engineering is one of the reasons why engineering picks up this tool so well, is the ability to move forward and move back well. I look forward to the business tools to start having that better, whether it's the Microsoft suite. Certainly making PowerPoint decks are still really painful. So I look forward to that stuff getting better.
Do you have one person who's in charge of rollback, or is it just the culture of the team?
No. I mean, all engineering teams live and breathe Git and GitHub and source control. It's basically engineering 101. It's been that way for my whole career. I think the business world needs something similar, or at least it needs to be weaved into the product so you don't even know that you're doing stuff like that.
What's one non-obvious metric or some leading indicator you found to be powerful in predicting growth or retention in your organizations?
And let me answer this in a different way. I'm not sure about a metric, and I know I think every industry has a metric that's a great leading indicator for theirs. I think it's very industry specific. Well, I will say we're talking about early stage, when showing your early prototypes and products everyone's going to say it looks super great. So there's
Mm.
always the ability to get this really false positive that this looks awesome. And early startups founders really eat that up, like, oh, this feels great. But you really need to find, you know, you know, economic buyers in pain who have a burning need, and your problem is going to solve that. So they have the ability to actually buy it. They have a burning need to spend money on solve this problem, and what you're doing is doing it, and they're pulling you into the product. You really want to start feeling that pull. Picking those right early design partners is everything, and that's a huge deal, right? Now, I always view a startup as a boulder starting at the top of a mountain. You have all this potential energy, and every little decision you make, you start getting all this kinetic energy pushing your idea with greater and greater velocity down the mountain. The first time you take VC funding, your ball's rolling down a certain area. You already picked a segment to go after. And once you picked a customer, you pick, they're buying your product. You now pick this product and you're building it for them. And, you have so much momentum there. So you have to be really strategic about the right customer in this segment that you want to go after. And it's really hard to push the boulder back up the mountain once you make those decisions. So early startup founders get so excited that somebody said yes, but you really want to pick those right things. I've seen a lot of people pick the wrong ones.
That's such great advice. And I do remember this very well. 2010, 2011, I'd call you from a day of meetings in New York and everyone loved it, right? Everyone loved the demo.
Totally.
Everyone, 100%. We're getting 100% new deals. It's not that easy.
Not that easy.
And now you're, 15 years later at Hi Marley, as I understand how you do development, you have picked such a specific, like you said, pain point of such a specific buyer. How give us an example of that? What's a way you refine it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is like, we have this mission to serve P&C insurance and make insurance more lovable. It's been a real, like, having a mission statement and culture aligned to that is an amazing simplifying assumption. So someone says, oh, you have this great idea for that health insurance, or maybe you can take this and move it to fiscal financial services. But be able to always point to that North Star that this is what we do. This is what we are, we're the communication layer for P&C insurance is an incredibly simplifying assumption. And it also, it makes the market know who we are and what we're not. And the insurance space is really interesting where there's such a huge ecosystem of players that you don't want to be it only works with an ecosystem that you don't want to be stepping on people's toes. So picking the right lane is really important. That could be idiomatic to the space that we're in.
Jonathan, if we were to partner on a MarTech startup right now, and we were to do it differently than we did Pipewave, what advice would you give?
So I've drinking the Kool-Aid and I really believe it. I do think this is the time for this AI first companies where at the core of the technology are these LLMs and models. And, not your competitors, but everyone who's starting a company right now is doing that right now. And it's really, really interesting. So I think you need to find a way to keep on taking advantage of the awesome customer base and the trust you have with your current customers and how much they love your current product. Keep that up. But also you need to find a way to explore and innovate with AI because somebody else is going to be doing that as well. And you need to find the right way to organize that you keep on taking advantage of your current business, but also exploring with AI in a meaningful way. And don't just take buzzwords and read blogs and stuff like that. People need to get really into it and come up with really novel solutions with the data that you have.
That's fantastic. How would you advise startups, marketing leaders to get their organizations to adopt AI in their process, in their development?
Yeah. So it starts with one person in the organization. Ideally, you have a respected technical leader that's senior in the organization who is, who's a spearhead of this initiative that is always talking about it, is pushing every organization function to pick up and to do this and to help block and tackle through the legal and the risks of using AI. And then the second thing is to find a few individuals that are super passionate about them and give them the tools and flexibility to be passionate about it and have them come back to you every Monday with lunch and learns and show them what they did. So you want to find people that are passionate about this, and then it becomes contagious. There's a lot of, there is a lot of skepticism out there, but you want to find the people that are excited and show and wow the people in your organization. So I think it's a good way to start.
I mean, it seems achievable, right? You just
Yeah.
it's not everyone needs to transform at once. You need a leader to show you how and pull them in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a question that goes deep into your soul. And you are a board game enthusiast and an amazing strategist, both from a business standpoint as well as a gaming standpoint. What is the game du jour in the Tushman household right now?
The game du jour. So the game that I've gotten super into is Japanese mahjong called Riichi Mahjong. It's super nerdy. It's been around for hundreds of years, but I think it's an awesome mix of tactics and 4 people around the table and having good conversations. And it relatively easy to learn, but has some complicated edges. I think it's been really fun. So I think that's the one that I would recommend.
Jonathan, thanks for giving the tech perspective on marketing. And it's so great to get your perspective on AI. The prognosis of 20x, I think we all want in our organizations. If we can get 3x, we're excited. And 5 and 6x, we're really starting to get there. So looking forward to seeing your progress, the growth of Hi Marley, and looking forward to having you back on a future episode.
Cool, man. You're the best, Paul.